Hello, and welcome back to the No Ratings podcast. The intros are back under not even popular demand. Just my producer was telling me it's time to start doing intros again. Connor's with me, Kim's with me. Let's start right from the top. Kevin De Bruyne is leaving Man City. Firstly, before I ask the big question, how nice was this that he announced this himself? Like, I don't
Yeah,
hate Fabrizio Romano, but you two, I think both of you have campaigned against Fabrizio on the pod previously. This was nice.
Yeah, it was nice to have like a bit of genuine football news, wasn't it, for the first time? I mean, it was sad for me because it's not really something which is to be celebrated. Obviously, it's a right decision, right? He has to leave, but I mean, it's always going to be sad when someone that legendary from your football club leaves. But it was nice that he got to like bow out on his own terms. There was no speculation beforehand. He obviously just made the decision himself. He kind of left it a little bit vague, though. Is he retiring? Is he going to go to MLS? Is he going to go to Saudi? Like, I don't really know what's next for him. But I mean, you saw yesterday he's not the player that he was, so it's probably the right move.
yeah. No, I just same thing really. It was actually nice to see the news break normally. I think like football fans were all over it instantly because they're so deprived of any sort of football news coming out like that. It was like fairly similar, like with the Klopp news back in the day when he decided he was going to leave. That was fairly like fresh off the print kind of thing, rather than just I've checked Twitter or I've checked my friend's group chat kind of thing. Football news like that, that's how football news should be. But on De Bruyne, yeah, I mean, yesterday he isn't what he used to be. Don't get me wrong, he's that good that he can still compete at that level, obviously, but he ain't what he used to be. And I think he's picking a perfect time, really, to call it quits, as he's done everything he can for that club. So fair play to him, man. I haven't got a bad word to say about him.
I am Firstly, on the Fabrizio thing, I got nothing against Fabrizio, right? Like the guy's crafted his own like lane. He's probably a multi-millionaire. When he talks about a transfer, it basically happens. But the nicest thing, and also the not nice thing, was that De Bruyne comes out and puts his own thing out, and nobody expects it. But the annoying thing was he used the AI image. I don't know. Like, there's been a lot of chat about this week, but I'm like, he didn't really need to do that. Like, surely he could have got a photographer to take a picture. Like, it's annoying to me that that's happening.
He's come up with so many clutch moments. I think more than any other player in Premier League history. There are so many photos he could use. There
Yeah.
are an abundance of photos that he could have used for that. Why an AI generated picture of yourself now, but trying to look like 7 years younger? Doesn't make any sense.
And it was like also the blue scarf. Like, broski, you've definitely got a picture of you with a blue scarf on, like a real life
Yeah,
picture. It
yeah,
was
yeah.
bare random. But yeah, like, obviously on De Bruyne, and this is what we're going to talk about. I did think he was. I think the weird thing for me is, and we'll talk about this in depth in a second. But the weird thing for me is that, like, I almost thought that maybe he would have potentially tinkered his role a little bit. Like, I've said for ages, why doesn't he go and sit as like a six next to someone who can run, because he can pass the ball like for days. But I actually, like, I agree with both of you. Like, his legs are struggling, but he has put like 10 years of his body on the line. Like, pretty much apart from his really early seasons and the last few, I'd say for like 7 seasons, this guy was playing 35 plus games at the highest level. But yeah, the question I had is now that he's retired, suddenly I saw all the quote tweets and everyone's like, the greatest midfielder ever. A lot of people saying the greatest Premier League player ever. And Kim, you're the City fan, so like, and I almost know for sure what you're going to say. But let's hear it, because I think Connor is probably going to agree with you. So I'm probably going to have to be the one that fights the other corner a little bit.
I think when you talk about the greatest Premier League player ever, I think just because of the time that it was at and the modernisation of like television and football and the nostalgia and all of that, no one will ever actually be able to replace Henry. Henry will always be the best in everyone's eyes just because of the time, because he was something new and because of what he did. But I genuinely can't see another contender at second than De Bruyne. I think when you think about everything that you would want from a player in terms of like so unbelievably aesthetically pleasing to watch, we'd never really seen a player like that before. Like Gerrard had some amazing passes in his locker, but that range of passes, that difficulty of passes, that way to control the tempo of the game, the fact that he could score ridiculous goals on both foot and did it regularly, and then won so much, had so many clutch moments like that. Have you seen that picture where like we're 2-0 down against Aston Villa and he
Yeah.
just has a picture of De Bruyne putting up his laces? But and
Yeah.
that's what he did. He like set up all the goals and we won the league. And he's done that so often. And then also has the fact that he's got a massive hamstring injury 13 games away from the end of the season during the treble, and he plays every game throughout it with a big injury. and helps his team win the treble. Like those moments and everything else that goes into him, like he has greatness and he also has like bestness. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think he's technically better than every other player I've ever seen in the Premier League all round, apart from probably your Henry. And he has greatness because he's won so much and he's carried the team on his back for 10 years. I just think there's no other words I can use to describe that guy other than GOAT.
I can see you shaking your head.
No, I'm not shaking my head. I almost anticipate you to say the exact same thing,
No,
and maybe even go like one further because of the conversation we had on a separate episode. So I'll let you have your say because I'm not downplaying De Bruyne, but we'll get to my bit.
I mean, it's undeniable that he's obviously one of the Premier League greats. In terms of if he's the greatest player ever, I'd probably still lean towards no, simply because there are those few names. Obviously, it's so hard to look past Henry, it just is. If we're talking about like Premier League legacies, obviously, any one player done more for a team? And like obviously, Giggs, but De Bruyne is better than Ryan Giggs at footy. That's my point. Like, there's no one that's been the best player at the team for that long, kind of thing. If I was talking like, actual primes, obviously Ronaldo in 2008 is still probably will always be the best player the league ever seen in that one season, but De Bruyne is ahead of him. If I was talking about midfielders, literally, I think we've had this conversation before. I've said then the only player that can chat to De Bruyne and still I think is disrespected to this day is Lamps. I think he's better than Gerrard and Scholes. I think he's the only one that can chat to De Bruyne is Frank Lampard. Frank Lampard's Premier League legacy is right up there as well. And mixed in, because De Bruyne has countless clutch moments, Lampard had countless clutch moments as well. I think those two are the ones that are neck and neck, and then Henry's just slightly above both of them for me.
Wait, hold on. This is a different conversation now. Your top three Premier League players are Henry and then De Bruyne, Lampard, like in number two, and then
Does
everyone else.
does like Ronaldo not count because he wasn't there long enough? Otherwise, he'd be the best because he was the best player the Prem's ever seen, just for a little bit.
Uh, hmm. I think like if we're combining the fact that Lampard's there and you just said De Bruyne's there because of how
Yeah,
long
then
they've done
then
it,
then,
then I don't think like
then
Ronaldo can
if
enter
that
the
was the case,
conversation.
then my top lot would be Henry, De Bruyne, Lampard, Rooney. Then four in some sort of order. I don't know, but those would be the top four.
And I'm guessing Kim for you, he's clearly the greatest midfielder in the Premier League.
I don't think he's clearly, but I think he's better than Lampard, and I agree with you. I've always thought Lampard's a little bit better than Gerrard, or on the same level. I think De Bruyne is the best. I don't think it's by a huge margin because also Gerrard had throughout his career weaker players to play with. But Lampard didn't. But then he, as you say, he came up with so many clutch moments. Scored like 146
Yeah, something
Premier League
ridiculous.
goals
Yeah.
from midfield. Like you can't really deny those numbers. And was a spearhead of the Chelsea team when they came from basically nothing to being one of the best teams in the world and Europe. So I just think those three. It's obviously those three in my eyes. It's obviously De Bruyne, Lampard, and Gerrard. I think Lampard's a tiny bit better than Gerrard, and I think De Bruyne's quite a bit better than both of them, to be honest.
Interesting. So I think, and I said this after De Bruyne retired. I said, and I obviously changed it to like a different lens because if I just said to people at that time like De Bruyne's not the greatest midfielder, but no, he definitely is. But the lens I changed it to is like if Salah's not your greatest winger right now and you're waiting for him to retire, then I will accept. I'll approve. But if he's not your greatest winger, full stop, then the retirement tax that you're giving De Bruyne and other players in the past, which is where I agree with Kim's initial point that because we're looking at retired players, like Henry will always have the edge because he was so unique for his time. But like that's probably not going to ever happen again. Like what I think like everything's being discovered in football. Like you've got the guys who can score you 70, 80 goals a season. And in the Premier League, you've got guys who can score you 30, 40 goals in a season. You've got guys who can get you 10, 20 assists. You've got guys who can do rainbow flicks and volley in the top corner and have their moments. And you've got guys who can do it for one season and never repeat it again. Like that like combination of like the Henry type player just won't happen. So I think Henry will always sit at the top. I think, and this is a question I got for you guys. Do you think, and it's because Liverpool fans said this as well, do you think if De Bruyne switched with Gerrard, for example's sake, or swapped with Lampard, he'd be able to do what they did for their teams?
I think I think definitely. I think definitely. I think I honestly think, and this is no disrespect to Gerard, who I do think actually sometimes does get disrespected in these conversations, especially by people like some of the people that we were with on
Like
ESPN.
Connor,
So
like
trophy,
Connor.
yeah, no, but they're trophy heavy, aren't they? And it's like, oh, he only won, he never won a Premier League, he only won a Champions League, so like that's disrespecting because of that. But there's so many different factors that go into that. But I think anything that you think Gerard was good at, De Bruyne is better at. You think Gerrard is like an amazing leader, but as we've just mentioned, De Bruyne has literally like 10 to 15 massive clutch moments, which then resulted in trophies. You think Gerrard's a good passer? De Bruyne's better. You think Gerrard's got a good shot? De Bruyne's better with both feet at shooting. So there's like nothing that he's not better at. So I think if you put De Bruyne in that Liverpool team, I think maybe they go on to win more than they do with
Really?
Gerrard.
Yeah, I
I
agree with
think
that.
you put him in the Chelsea team, he probably doesn't score 146, 148 goals, whatever Lampard did, because they're different types of players.
Yeah.
But I do also think that, like, let's say, like, for example, like Drogba only scored 88 goals in the Premier League, right? If De Bruyne's behind him, that number gets inflated massively, as does all the players around him. So I think comparing him with Lampard probably isn't fair because he's a different type of midfielder. But I think he's exactly who Gerrard is, but just better at everything than Gerrard
Yeah,
was.
I completely agree with that. To be completely like, we're being on, if we're actually just being honest, and we're taking Liverpool and Man City goggles off, and you just put the two players against each other. De Bruyne is more talented than Steven Gerrard. He simply is a better footballer, and I would struggle to find one quality that Gerrard had that was better than De Bruyne. It wasn't really anything. Gerrard's best aspects was passing. Gerrard was a fantastic passer of the ball. De Bruyne is the best passer the league has ever seen.
Mm.
Gerrard's leadership, okay, was great. Sometimes was very erratic. De Bruyne has been the captain, like has been there for Man City. Is he the only player that predates Pep? He might be. I don't even know. He might be. He might have joined at
Yeah,
the
he
same
is.
time.
He's the last one
He's
now.
been there throughout all these different legends and everything. De Bruyne has been the one constant. In about 10 years' time, the way people will talk and look back on De Bruyne, because the talent that I've not liked him for years because I don't like Man City. But as you said, now that it's over, you can appreciate, like, wow, this guy was simply unbelievable with the football. Some of the things he could do in his prime, unbelievable.
And I think you have to also like take into account the fact that like he's been the best player for the best team.
Yeah.
And that
Mm.
makes a massive difference. He's been the best team for the best player for the best team who've dominated a decade of English football. I think he's so clearly City's best player. I think because he doesn't have, and I was trying to explain this to my mates the other day, we said he had so many clutch moments because he doesn't have like that moment, because he doesn't have the Aguero moment, and because he doesn't have the Vincent Company against Leicester moment, that one individual moment. I think there'll always be a little bit more love for Aguero for City fans because he just did that thing, right? And no one's ever going to surpass that. But like, if you look objectively and you take emotion out of the situation, Kevin De Bruyne is by far the best player we've ever
Yeah.
had. Like, by far. He's the most decorated, and he's also been the key cog in that team.
Yeah.
I'd say also with the Aguero moment, like until maybe like, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but until like maybe his last 3 or 4 seasons, that Aguero moment came when you weren't that good, or like when you were growing into becoming like one of the greatest teams. De Bruyne has been in that greatest
Yeah.
team for like 10 years and
Yeah.
kept doing it season after season, but you've just been winning season after season, so it almost becomes difficult to have like that moment. But you talk about like the Villa game where like he was down doing his shoelaces. There's also the game in Madrid where he scored that ridiculous goal, like almost like overturned your Champions League voodoo or whatever it was. I can remember there's a lot of big games where he's turned up. The Arsenal game, was that last year? No, maybe the year before.
Treble winning season.
Yeah, the year
Literally.
before last, where he just came to life and won you the title basically because he took it from under Arsenal's nose. So yeah, I hear it. I hear it. Obviously, as a Liverpool fan, it's difficult for me to look past Steven Gerrard because I look at him and go like, this club isn't where it gets to be if it's not for him. Um, but then I also, like a lot of Liverpool fans, saying if De Bruyne was playing for this Liverpool team, who would have won more trophies? And I've said hands down, like Liverpool would have won more trophies than City would have in this period because he's that like good in my opinion. So anyway, where do we think he's going next? Kim, obviously you said you think you're unsure. Connor, I think did you previously say you should go to Saudi? Am I
I
right?
think I said that before, but I've changed my mind on that now. I think you should just go into Miami, play with Messi for a bit. Everyone wants to see that. No one cares, but like,
Yeah.
just go make your money in America. Go have a happy life, man.
Yeah, I think so. I know that San Diego have been sniffing around for years. That last couple of years, they've been chatting about it. And he doesn't strike me as the type of person who would want to go to Saudi. I don't know why, but everything that he's always sort of said about football and about competitiveness seems like he wouldn't want to go to Saudi. But then I don't really see MLS as a huge step up from that, if at
Yeah.
all, anyway. So, yeah, I think he should just go and secure the bag,
What
really.
about Barcelona?
Nah.
No. He really has lost it. Like, as much as we can talk about how amazing he is, he really has lost it
Yeah.
this season.
Yeah, but
Like,
like in La Liga, you get to paper over the cracks a lot more. Like Lewandowski, and this is Bundesliga, right? But the Bundesliga is such a physical league that Lewandowski's lack of physicality couldn't get hidden. And in La Liga, unless you're playing Madrid or Atletico, you can disguise a midfielder who can't run. Think about Gundogan last season. You can hide these guys a little bit.
that's true. It's not a bad point. And that stat that came up yesterday before the derby, De Bruyne's still got way more chances created per 90 than anyone else this season, which is amazing.
Really?
Like way more. Yeah, I think he's like 3.48. The next is like 2.4.
Mad.
Like he's like way more. And yeah, I guess like he probably could do a little bit of a job in La Liga, but he really can't run at all anymore. So you wouldn't want to play him in the big games. But I guess like he's better at running than Gundogan. And like you say, like he was actually quite good for Barcelona last year. So
I just think he's run his body into
I
the
just
ground at this point, though. I think
yeah.
it's so hard to be that good for that long. Like, me included, like to just discredit Man City's titles because it's easy to do. But at the end of the day, when you're one of the best players in the world, when they win 4 trophies in a row, that has a toll, 4 leagues in a row, that has a toll on your body. It just does, man. Like, yesterday was kind of sad to watch. The game was sad to watch in general, but watching him there was like, he is finished at this level, in my opinion. Go drop down a level, do what Messi does, look really good against Farmers. Just go enjoy it for the last few seasons of your career.
I would love him to play next to Ronaldo because I just think like playing next to Messi, you just become like a pawn for Messi's
Yeah.
game. Like anyone who's really good, you just give the ball to him and he gets to do whatever he wants. Whereas, say, like next to Ronaldo, I can still picture him on the right hand side, whipping him in, Ronaldo scoring. And also, you know me, like I'm an advocate for the Saudi league. Like I agree with Kim that it's strange to me that people go like, yeah, but you should go, like, not saying this as you, Connor, because we've had this discussion before, but people often go, like, oh, go MLS, man. Like, it's so much, like, classier. It's almost like in people's minds, they're like, it's cooler to go to the MLS than, like, Saudi. But if you look at Messi's, like, people will maybe say from a financial perspective, but if you look at Messi's finances for playing for Inter Miami, he's picking up a percentage for every time their games are getting watched on Apple TV, like, broski. He's making a lot of money. So, like, I'm saying, go Saudi, bro. Like, at least for a couple of seasons. Let's see you play alongside Ronaldo because I just think with Messi, bro, you just give the ball to him and he just takes everyone on
Saudi
anyway.
League will be a lot tougher than the MLS. That's why I was thinking like maybe just go chill out a little bit more. But if he wants like a little bit more of a challenge, then go to the Saudi League, I guess.
Also, he's ginger as well. Like that big Middle Eastern sun is gonna cook his little head, man. Like his face gets super red when it's like over like 15 degrees in Manchester. Like, I don't know about that, but I guess San Diego's no better.
Yeah. So what we saying? We're ruling De Bruyne out and moving to Saudi. It was too hot for him.
I think it could be too. I think it genuinely could be too hot for him.
That's
I was
true.
also just looking as well, right? Like we're talking about this guy as being like maybe the best midfielder of all time in the Prem. Like he's missed like since coming to City like 500 days for injury, and
Really?
we're still talking about that. Yeah, he's had like massive
Yeah,
injuries.
he's
Like
been out
that
for
game
time.
against Arsenal came after he had like 128 days
Yeah.
out.
Mad.
Like we're talking about a guy who's been had such bad injury problems and has just
But the
always
thing is
come
with De
back and
Bruyne, yeah,
always
you
found
can
the level
tell though
again.
when they don't have De Bruyne. Like even if you look at the 2 Champions League finals, the first one, Man City were pointless. They were awful against Chelsea. De Bruyne got injured and went off like fairly early in that game. The second one, pretty sure he went off injured in that one as well. And realistically, I think
Yeah,
Inter were the
yeah.
better team that day. If it wasn't for Lukaku shitting the bed, they probably would have lost that one as well. Like De Bruyne, if he's there in those clutch moments in the Champions League final, I think Man City walked them both, and they're actually 2 times European champions. But here we are.
I think something Kim said earlier, and I was thinking about saying this before you said it. The fact that he's the best player in the best team almost makes me like contemplate what I said earlier about Gerrard being so good in a bad team. Because like, it's not that De Bruyne is really good and everyone else is on a similar level. He's been better than Yaya. He's been better than David Silva. He's been better than Aguero. He's been better than Haaland. He's been better than Sane. He's been better than Sterling. He's been better than Mara. Even like these guys at the top of their game, he's still better than all of those guys. So then I go like, yeah, this guy, he's like the great of the greats, if that makes sense.
And he's the one they all look up to as well. Like Jack Grealish, like literally said, like one of the main reasons he joined was so he could play with De Bruyne.
That's
Like
mad.
these are guys who are also getting like bought for 100 million quid, and everyone looks up to him like a god. Like that's how you know. And that and I think like we were talking before, weren't we, about like the aura attacks,
Mm.
and like he actually kind of transcends that because he should have no aura. Like he's not a particularly great speaker. He's not like he doesn't care that much about what he looks like. He doesn't
Nah,
do
but
any of
after
that.
when he came back from that Newcastle game, you know, when he whipped his hair back, I was like, he's got it. I felt like aura arrived in him. I've never seen aura
Yeah.
arrive in someone like that.
Then maybe that's why he needed the injury. Maybe it wasn't injury at all. Maybe he was just working on his trim.
Yeah, bro. Like I don't like when he came off the bench against Newcastle, and they had that free kick. Remember, you had a free kick, and to be fair, he
Yeah.
smashed it into the wall. But just because of the hair, there was something changed about him. I don't know if it was the hair or a tan. He's consistently been able to keep that look since then. And I was like, I've never seen someone have aura just birth inside them at the age of like 30 plus. Like either you have it or you don't, and he just had it out of nowhere. It was fascinating. Like this is a whole another conversation for another episode for sure. Like auraless versus auraful players is going to be the title of that episode. But yeah, he is an anomaly. Like I'm trying to think off the top of my head if I've ever seen another player do that. Like I don't know, like not even.
Just come into their own.
It's not even that though, bro. Like pre Newcastle, what you just described is exactly how I felt. Like yeah, he's a wonderful footballer, but he doesn't have it. Like I love watching him play football. I love the crosses and stuff he puts in. He comes on against Newcastle, and I was like, something's changed. You're like a
Yeah.
behemoth now on the pitch. Like
And there
I
was that
now,
line, wasn't there? Like De Bruyne's warming up, the rest of the Premier League is shaking.
bro.
Then he
Jurgen
comes on and
Klopp.
gets two
Jurgen
assists.
Klopp gave
Oh,
De Bruyne the aura. They go hand in hand. Them two. They
yeah,
love
yeah.
each other as well. Right, let's move on from Kevin De Bruyne very, very quickly. It's been a great season for the rest. There's been a lot of talk about the Premier League not being very good this season. We're not going to discuss that because I think everyone has a very different opinion. We may discuss that at some point towards the end of the season. But it has been a great season for the rest of the pack, the likes of like Eddie Howe, Andoni Iraola, Thomas Frank, Oliver Glasner, Unai Emery, Marco Silva, Nuno as well at Forest. Let's say, for example, City didn't have Pep, and let's say, for example, Connor, you didn't have Amarim. I don't know if you would actually swap Amarim for one of these guys. But if you had a choice, and I'll start with you, Connor, out of the pack of the rest of managers, is there anyone you'd want at your club?
Do Newcastle count in the rest, or are they too good?
Kim, what do you think? Are Newcastle too good?
I think you can count them in the rest because I think they probably won't get top four. They won't get European football, so I think that's
Yeah,
the
they're
rest.
kind of in the rest, just
Alright,
about.
I still probably wouldn't even take him. I don't even know why I asked that.
I knew you were going to say that. I know you so well to know, like, actually, Eddie Howe's not even the sort of guy you like.
To be honest, I think the most underrated manager in the world, not in the most underrated manager in the league, someone who doesn't get his flowers enough. I'll probably take him. I'll probably take Marco Silva. You know, I think the things that Fulham do, they're so hard to beat. But when you actually like strip it down to bare bones, they have no reason to be as hard to beat as they are. But they are home and away. They're hard to beat. They're the only team that done the double over Forest. I'm pretty sure. Obviously beat Liverpool yesterday, that first away defeat of the season. And Marco Silva doesn't get enough plaudits for it. Like they're challenging for Europe, and this season it looks like top 8 can get Europe, so Fulham could get Europe. When they came up 2 seasons ago, I had them to go straight back down again, be a yo-yo club, because that's what Fulham had been for a few years. But Marco Silva, I don't even think I think he might have come bottom half once, and then he's always been up there, and he's taken not even an average group of players who Alex Iwobi wasn't amazing at Arsenal, wasn't amazing at Everton. Raul Jimenez seemed to have fallen off post injury, understandably. There's a lot of players there that he's almost revived and turned into very, very good Premier League players. I think Marco Silva deserves a lot more credit, and I think he'd be the one. You know, like a Pochettino when he went to Spurs from Southampton and did like really, really well. I think top clubs should be waiting in line for Marco Silva, to be completely honest. I think he's a fantastic, fantastic manager.
I think he was meant to go Saudi last year, remember? Or not meant to. He rejected Saudi after they offered him
Yeah,
like
yeah.
40 million or something. I'm just looking at the table now, which is why I was looking at my phone. They're actually only 4 points behind Man City, which obviously, yeah, there's context of Man City, I mean that good. But for further context, they're only 5 points off Chelsea, who are fourth. So it's not out of the realms of possibility that Fulham might start to push and squeeze for top
Yeah,
four.
he
Oh
deserves his
yeah,
flowers.
I like Silver. I like Silver a lot. I think he's a good manager. I think he's got a bit of grit as well about him. Like he's a bit nasty as well sometimes. Like he can sometimes snap. Like I like that. I think you need a bit of that in a manager. I think for me, I think you probably would maybe go Marco Silva. I think for me, I'd go Ollie Glasner. I think he's mad disrespected. Like there's a reason Bayern Munich wanted him in the summer. There's a reason RB Leipzig want him now. And like I do a fair bit of work at Crystal Palace, and I remember on transfer deadline day, they were supposed to get like they bought 4 new players in last minute. Mark Gahey was supposed to leave. It was all a mess. They don't really ever get supported that well. They don't get that much money. Like Eze was about to leave, then he was staying. Elise left because they had no choice. And like you're stuck with players who like he's got playing such good football, like Mateta, like bro, like come on. He was dreadful, and now he's like one of the best strikers in the league. People talking about him going to Manchester United. He's bagging from everywhere. Like he's just bought all these players who you wouldn't think are that great. Like Will Hughes, he's been on the bench the last few weeks, but before that, the rest of the season, he's been unbelievable, and no one would have seen that from that type of player. And I just think like because they had such a bad start to the season, which was down to the transfer window, they had like 3 months without having the same squad at training. Like, that's not really what you
Mental.
need. Do you know what I mean? And then like, there was like so many international breaks, and they had such a tough period. And now they're only 5 points off Fulham with one game in hand. You know, they win that, they're 2 points behind, and this is like a Fulham team who've spent a lot more money than Palace have. So I think he gets mad disrespect.
And they're both like the polar opposites. Like Fulham. I agree, Marco Silva. Like the atmosphere at Craven Cottage is pretty dire. It's like a family venue. Like you go there for a chill. Palace
Yeah,
is
yeah.
very hostile and horrible to play at. Palace play like Larry football, despite not really having like every player that can do that. And then Fulham are more resolute and horrible to play against. But I think like I was thinking when you talk about Marco Silva, they lost Mitrovic, they lost João Palhinha, and every summer they
Mm.
lose like their main man. This year they'll probably lose Anthony Robinson, who's been immense this year. And they'll go and find like someone else. Like I think it's Sasa Lukic this season that's playing in that midfield position. And then it was Mitrovic. They had Raul Jimenez. Then he got injured. Rodrigo Muniz came in, and it's just like, where are they birthing these like random players from? And it's weird because I think because like Bournemouth and Brighton go and sign these like players from Peru and Colombia, it's like really like sexy to football
Yeah.
fans. So like we go like, oh, their scouting system is legit, man. Like it's so good. But if you look at how Fulham have replaced players, sometimes they've gone and got like Calvin Bassey from like the Dutch league, and you go, oh, like I've seen him before. He was at Rangers. Like you don't comprehend like these players.
Mhm.
I think Fulham have done that pretty well, and Palace are pretty similar. Like they've gone and got Muniz from I want to say Club Bruges, or it was a Belgian team, and they got him for like 6 million. So you don't even bat an eyelid, and he's been immense this year. The manager that I would go for, I will split between these two as well, but I didn't actually mention him, but I'd probably go with Fabian Hörsler. I think like the job he's done quietly under the radar. I know they're ninth in the league, but that cluster of teams are all really close because he's so
Mhm.
young. I anticipate in like 5 years he'll be like one of the best managers in the league. Like every time I watch him manage the same game twice, obviously you play every team twice. I don't know why I'm telling people that like they haven't watched Premier League football before. But whenever I've seen them lose to like Wolves, they'll go and do a job on them the next time. Um, and
Not
I don't know if
Palace,
it's
though.
statistically true, but I don't think they've lost against the same team twice this season.
They just lost to Palace.
Did they lose to Palace? Yeah, that was double. But
Yeah, that was a
Palace is a
double.
derby, but
Palace is
Kim.
different. It's a derby. Yeah, it's a derby.
But how
Sorry.
the
Yeah,
hell is that a derby, bro? I swear there's like 200 miles between these two teams.
yeah, it's crazy. It's a new one, isn't it? It's only like 50
Yeah.
years ago.
One thing I'll give that, it's
Studious
actually played like a
manager.
derby though. It's one of the few games left in the Premier
Yeah, it
League where they
is.
actually,
Bro, three
yeah,
red cards and like 16 minutes added on. Like that's a great
yeah.
game.
Yeah, they're stupid red cards though. I was like, I,
Yeah,
I don't know if I felt like all three were red cards.
Mm.
Um, Van
that
Hecke
Nketiah
was,
I
one
think
wasn't
Gurley one
bad.
was a yellow, second yellow as well. He was already walking off before he even gave it.
yeah, true, the high foot.
Yeah,
Yeah, maybe. And then Van Hecke's, yeah. So maybe it was only Nketiah actually that wasn't a
Yeah,
red. But it was like three high foot red
yeah,
cards back to back to back. And I was like, what the hell's
yeah.
happening there?
yeah, yeah,
Bare random. Glasner was fuming, as you would
yeah.
be.
He's not happy.
Very quickly, because I think no one ever has spoken about this once this season. is this the worst bottom three ever? And I think Kim, because me and you have been on the top end, and Connor's actually not a secret, he's a Coventry fan. Is like, why is this? Is this the worst bottom three? And like, how the hell do we ever fix this? Because I'm looking at the championship table right now.
It's
These
done.
next three teams coming up, they're also going
It's
down.
done. It's done. It's so finished, you know. Because you even think about the top three that are coming up, like you just said. Two of them from last season, Sheffield United and Burnley, were two of the worst teams you think would have ever seen in the Premier League, especially Sheffield United. And they're top. No, they're not second. Sheffield United and Burnley are top two. And they're both probably going to come back up. Leeds have got that bottle job gene. They've probably got the best squad, but if they come up, they ain't going to do anything. The Premier League, we were talking about the Super League this, the Super League that. It's gotten dangerous to this point where that's 2 years in a row the three promoted teams have gone straight back down. So that's 17 teams. The gap is getting bigger and bigger for the teams that come up because they're managing to establish themselves now. I think Forest genuinely was the last one in that trapdoor where they came up, stayed up. Now that's it. Now it's almost locked. I think Wolves is the only team that looks even somewhat weak enough where a promoted team could potentially challenge. But even then, they're 12 points clear of relegation. Like the teams that are coming up next season, Sheffield United will go straight back down. Burnley will go straight back down. And then, even though Cov are just outside the playoffs, any team that goes up, including Cov, they're going to struggle. They're going to really struggle to do anything. And you saw like Luton gave it a good go. Ipswich this season did everything right. They came up, they spent countless amounts of money. They wanted to really go for it and try and establish themselves as a Premier League club. They also didn't fall into the trap of we need to play this certain way to stay up. They tried to make themselves as hard to beat as possible. They have 20 points. They're almost relegated already. The gap between the Premier League and the Championship is getting staggering, and this isn't going to change for a while. And people say it's because of the positioning with the Premier League, with the each team gets a lot of money. And don't get me wrong, that is true. But also, the teams that go down always come straight back up because of how wham the parachute payments are. We're cooked.
Yeah.
Everyone is cooked. It's so finished. The Championship almost feels irrelevant at this point, and the top 17 teams in the Premier League may as well just turn into a Super League themselves. Because can you really see next season a Thomas Frank Brentford team going down? No. Iriola Bournemouth team? No. No, Forest ain't going to be anywhere near the bottom anymore. The only team I could even imagine, like I said, is Wolves. And they're going to stay up as well because they're going to get about 80 mil for Cunha. It's finished. Yeah.
I think you got to be patient, man. I think no, because I think what happens with promoted teams is they come up and then they obviously lose the first 10 games and then it's like, oh shit, let's get rid of our manager. They get some manager in. His only goal is to keep the team up. He'll make a few like probably usually shitty January transfers and then they'll go down. Whereas I think Ipswich, I think like they're definitely going to go down. They're going to keep McKenna. They know what it's like to be in the Prem. They're going to keep most of their players. And then I think if they come up next year, they'll have a lot of the parachute payments. They know what it's like to be in the Premier League. They'll have a manager who's been there. And then I think they can actually probably start to cement themselves. But I think it happens too often that a championship team will come up and their only goal is like, we need to stay promoted. We need to stay up this year. No matter what we do, we need to stay up. And it just ends up making bad decision after bad decision, sacking managers. Whereas I think that the longevity aspect is probably the best way to go about it. And I think that can yield success. I do think the gap is massive. And I think like the Burnley, Sheffield United and Leeds will just come back down. Like Coventry, we don't know if they're going to get in the playoffs, but that's like a bit of an unknown as well.
Also, Coventry are broke. They've got no money. So
but when Gyökeres gets sold finally, we're going to be rich. We're going to be rich.
Have you got like a 20%?
Yeah, 20%. That's a lot of money, man. He'll get sold for a lot of money.
But you're hoping for like 100 million. People are talking about 60 right now. It's
Let
crazy
him get stock back up a little bit, and then
the knock-on effect of like that is insane. Like 100 mil for you, that's 20 mil, bro.
That's
20 mil is like crazy money.
Yeah, it's mad.
But 50 mil is 10 mil. Like you're screwed. I was also looking at this Ipswich team, and just very quickly before we wrap, I've said this for the longest time. I think me and Kim have spoken about this a few times. I've said you either need a top striker or a top goalkeeper to stay up, and I think now you actually need both. Like Southampton have Ramsdale, who I think is more than good enough to play in the Premier League, but they don't have a striker. Ipswich have Liam Delap, but they've got Palmer and Muric in goal. I don't want to speak too harshly on both of them, but they're not Premier League goalkeepers. And so now I think you go without both of them existing. I look at Wolves. Jose Sarr, he's a Premier League goalkeeper. Probably not one of the best ones, but he's definitely a Premier League goalkeeper. Then they've got Strand Larson and Cunha, two guys who can put the ball in the back of the net. I think if I'm Leeds or Burnley or Sheffield United, I'm saying scrap midfield because everyone comes and buys defenders. I'm looking at Ipswich's team. They bought Twanzebe, they bought Dara O'Shea. Leif Davis is someone that they obviously kept hold of, but typically they'll go and buy wingers and buy defenders. And I got scrap all of that. Buy a 9. And if you've been promoted, if you're Leeds, go buy Ramsdale and go buy Delap right now. Go spend 60 million on them, and I promise you got a better chance of staying up than whatever plan you're coming up with. That's my theory.
Yeah.
Um,
I'd agree. The goalkeeper
agree.
thing is huge, because Murich's hands are made like he's got Poppadom hands. He sent Burnley down last season, and Ipswich thought they could change him. Also, just on the conversation, I know we're wrapping it up. Just on the final point I'll make on it is, I genuinely think Vincent Kompany getting hired by Bayern finished the Premier League relegation battles for years to come, because they prove you can just come up, play a little attractive football, so you get a move to a bigger club. You saw Russell Martin, he tried it with Southampton this season. At no point did Russell Martin give a singular shit about if Southampton stayed up or not. That was painfully evident when they conceded about 6 goals playing the same style of football. He just wanted his move.
This is what I mean. He knew they were going to go down. He knew they were going to go down. If they'd stayed patient and started Russell Martin, number one, they'd be on way more points than they are now. And number two, they'd definitely come back up next year. But they didn't. They got in some random manager who has won 0 games. Pointless.
No, I agree.
And they won't come up next year. And they won't come up next year because they'll lose the first few games and they'll go, oh, this guy's not a championship manager. They'll get a new manager and then they'll sit in and around those positions again.
They got their replacement wrong. I mean, they got their replacement wrong. But my point is the football you need to play to stay up. The last couple teams, if you look at them, Forest and Brentford were the last 2 teams to come up and probably stay up. Brentford play such horrible football to play against. Long throw-ins, long balls. Forest play on the counter. That's the football you need to play to even have a chance at staying up. And then once you've stayed up 1, maybe 2 seasons, then you can try and build like Forest have and play these other avenues of football. But when you first come up, you cannot play like that. Burnley last season tried it, awful. Southampton this season, awful. Leicester sacked Cooper, like you said, just mindless sacking for no reason when he was doing semi-okay with the squad he had. They brought in Van Nistelrooy, who plays this similar type of football. He's won once, twice, I don't even know. He's been awful as well. You need to be hard to beat if you want to stay up. And so many teams are shooting themselves in the foot with these trendy appointments who only care about the next step of their career rather than keeping the team they're currently at in the league. It's going to keep happening if that happens.
I think it's definitely an interesting debate. It's difficult to say, right? Like, we don't know Russell Martin. Like, maybe that he believed that is how they would stay up because he certainly spoke that way. So, don't know for sure. But there is also a part of the pessimist in me does go, like, he's just seen a guy get relegated and get the biggest job in Europe. And they were awful. They were doing what Southampton did. So, I hear both ends of the argument. For now, though, we're going to leave it there because I think this worst top 3 debate is a bottom 3 debate will continue. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you drop a like, follow the pod on podcasts or YouTube, wherever you find your podcasts. And of course, follow the guys as well. And we'll see you in the next one.